Yeah. 44 to 14.
What was it?
44 to 14.
44?
Okay, good morning. Can everybody hear me? I'll call to order the March 1st regular meeting, March 1st, 2021 regular meeting of the Haywood County Board of Commissioners. And our first order of business will be our Pledge of Allegiance. And after that, I'll ask Pastor Josh Frazier to come for the occasion. So if everyone please stand for the pledge.
Able to serve this county, to be able to live here and the privileges that come with that. We pray today would be a fruitful meeting, that it would be a time to be able to make decisions that will prosper, help, bring happiness, fortitude to our county. We pray that this would be not only a rainy day, but a day that we would be able to look to and find what we need. I pray for wisdom and guidance in every decision and every thought process. We thank you for the men and women of this county. We pray that you would bless them. Pray that you would help them and give them guidance and wisdom through all that they should do. Together as a county, we pray that you would continue to unify us and allow us to be the people that you would have us to be. We pray all this in your name. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Josh. Our next order of business is public hearings, and we have none this morning. And then after that, our next order of business is public comment. And I would ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes. And when you come up to the mic, make sure you're kind of speaking to the mic. And then there's some hand sanitizer and some wipes there if you'd like to use those this morning. I have one person who has signed up so far. His name is Michael Boss, if you want to give your comment. Thank you, Mr. Boss. I read your email and appreciate you sending that.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be here. My name is Michael Boss. I live at 223 Fairway Terrace in Canton. And I reside at Springdale Estates. And I'm here with Buddy Lawrence, who also is a resident of Springdale, and he's also the general manager of Springdale Country Club. So a very brief, statement. So in conjunction with Carolina Mountain Cablevision, Springdale has launched a project to bring terrestrial broadband to our community. The project is currently underway and will be complete by early spring of this year. The infrastructure is being funded jointly by Springdale residents, Carolina Mountain Cablevision, and Lex West. And Mr. West is the owner of Springdale Country Club. With the recent news that Charter has been awarded a grant for our service area, our residents and friends at Springdale need to know from us that we've made a sound decision to move forward now. We are currently served by AT&T DSL and a couple of other satellite providers, none of which are adequate. So I will pose questions for consideration, which are 4 questions. Number 1, when will Charter begin infrastructure construction in Haywood County? Number 2, where in Haywood County does Charter plan to begin that construction? Number 3, how many of the prospective 5,479 customers will have access to the new service in 2021? How many in 2022? And last, will areas currently served by AT&T DSL be a priority for Charter? And so that's my statement. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, and I appreciate y'all being proactive and doing what you're doing. I know a lot of, would anyone else like to comment this morning? Okay, I'll close the public comment session, and I'll just say that I appreciate you being proactive, and I know there are some subdivisions that have been proactive and pulled their resources together, and I think that's a great way to be able to get internet and actually not have to wait on somebody, wait on promises and everything. But you're here this morning, so we have, we'll be having a presentation later, and you can watch that. Charter's here, and Ms. Porto is over our broadband committee. The next order of business is constituent concerns, and I know Ira is here this morning and would like to introduce our new health director.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, members of the public. This morning, it's my privilege to introduce to you Sarah Henderson, who is going to be our Services Division Director. I'd like to thank our County Manager Bryant and Kathy McClure, Chairman of the Board for Health and Human Services, Paul Turner, for their excellent work to try and go through this competitive process. Sarah Henderson comes to us from Western Carolina, where presently she is serving as an associate professor in the nursing department. She also, during this pandemic, has taken work with Samaritan's Purse and worked in hospitals in New York City, very familiar with COVID, and also has assisted us in our vaccine clinics. Sarah has served on our board, actually, for Health and Human Services. She also has served in our agency as a communicable disease coordinator. In addition, she has experience in the private industry as a nursing supervisor and staff development, working with a long-term care facility, and also in pediatric side of things. She earned a Bachelor's of Nursing from Piedmont College in Georgia and has a Master's in Nursing from Western Carolina, and is currently working on her PhD in nursing leadership at the University of Southern Mississippi. So we have a very well-qualified health director in Sarah Henderson. Thank you very much.
Would you like to say something, Sarah?
Good morning. I just want to thank you for the opportunity. I realize the magnitude of this position, and it's truly a privilege to be back in public health and to serve the citizens of Haywood County. So I'm excited and looking forward to the journey. Thank you for having me.
Welcome aboard. Thank you. Does anyone have any constituent concerns this morning? We'll just let.
I had a few, a lot of people complain about roadside trash and drainage problems on roads, and I've contacted our representative, former Commissioner Mr. Pless, and he's actually got some things done. I think he's got the DOT draining some water off the road, and he's supposed to be helping us out on some trash pickup, which I know he has. So a lot of that's gotten taken care of. I actually turned in some more stuff to him in the county that I got turned on to, so we'll see how that goes. And so I appreciate him getting on to that. And so that's about all I had.
I had some similar emails and concerns from constituents, and I think we're working on some things to get some things done, maybe roll out a new initiative to get the trash picked up. So we're looking at some things as a solid waste committee to do those. And then I did have some other emails. I think we're going to address some of those today, and the other ones we've addressed and took care of. And then I'd like to welcome Ms. Henderson. I've had the privilege of working with her on the health board, and I believe she'll be a true asset.
The only issues I had are some calls and emails regarding the jail. It's the need for the jail and the kind of jail, the expansion and that kind of thing. I assume we're still working on that.
Welcome. Congratulations on your new position. Glad you're going to join us. And same thing, the trash has been a concern. I have seen several crews this week, though, actually picking up and then coming back and picking up the bags. So that hopefully we'll see much prettier roadsides very soon. So I appreciate that. I think those are contracts were awarded through the DOT is what Les said. And then the other concerns were about the jail as well. So anytime you have a question, I'm certainly open to hear it.
Okay, thank you. And I'll just echo what Jennifer said. I saw some crews picking up trash on Highway 209. That's where I live. After I'd gotten an email. So I understand this time of year, you can really, when the vegetation's at its lowest point, it's, you see the trash the worst. It's kind of hidden when the vegetation's out. I know as a surveyor, I really like this time of year because we don't have to chop a whole lot, so the leaves are down and everything. I was coming back through just traveling I-26 over the weekend, and I noticed South Carolina had crews picking up trash on I-26. And it was looking good also. So I just want to say, too, that North Carolina spends several $1 million a year on trash, on litter pickup. And then we have our local Commission for a Clean County that does trash pickups in the summer. I believe they start in May, don't they, Tommy? And
Yeah, we've kind of been held up with this COVID. We've had to operate a little different, but we're fixing to get started back. So.
Okay. So to volunteer, I know you can contact Commissioner Long. He can put you, or I can put you in touch with Bill Skelton, who kind of oversees that Commission for a Clean County, and they do a great job. Okay, our next order of business is administrative agency reports and presentations, and the first one is our Rural Digital Opportunity Fund for broadband and internet. We have our program administrator, David Francis, and Charter Communications Director of Government Affairs, Mike Tank. Is that it? Welcome, Mike, and welcome, David.
Good morning, Commissioners. Hope everybody's doing very well today. Last time I was up here, we've been on this roller coaster with broadband. It announced that we had lost the GREAT grant at that time. And so, interestingly, today we're here to talk about a grant that Haywood County, by way of charter, has received. The Federal Communications Commission announced in August of 2019 the Rural Digital Opportunity Fund to bring high-speed broadband service to rural homes and small businesses. The $20 billion fund would go to unserved areas. Unserved areas. That's what's important to remember about this. In December of 2020, the FCC awarded support to bring broadband to over 5 million homes and businesses in census blocks that were entirely unserved by voice and broadband with download speeds of 25 megabits per second. In Haywood County, 2 providers were awarded the grant: CCO Holdings Charter and Space Exploration Technologies Corp. You see at the map here, the green represents what Charter was awarded, and the red is what Space Technologies was awarded. That is an Elon Musk satellite company, if you want to know that. So today, to share the news and answer questions about the RDOF process and the awards here at Haywood County, is Mike Tank. Mike is the Director of Government Affairs for Charter Communication. He covers the western third of the state for Charter, and he's based in Charlotte for the past 15 years. He brings 40 years of experience to the cable and telecommunication industry. Mike?
Welcome, Mike.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm Mike Tank, and it's my pleasure to be here today to talk about the RDOF, which is, for us, a very exciting thing. As was kind of alluded to, RDOF is something that's being put together, or the Rural Digital Opportunity Fund is something that's under the FCC's banner. And what they're doing is they're trying to get broadband out into rural areas of the country. You well know here in Haywood that there are many areas that are unserved that do need broadband service. So the way they did it is they went about looking at census blocks. And under the FCC rules, the way they looked at it is if there's nobody in that census block that does not have broadband service that meets their definition of 25 megabits by 30 megabits up, then that's considered unserved. And so those census blocks were eligible to participate in the RDOF auction. The way the RDOF auction worked was it was a reverse auction. And this is all done very quietly, very secretly. And, you know, as any auctions, you can't, sometimes you know what the other bidder's bidding, and these you don't. And so the way it worked is they were asking a provider such as us, and there's any other provider, I mean, there are certain requirements and rules you have to follow and meet. But the provider then would make a bid to say, for census block X. We are willing to build that with a contribution from the federal government of Y amount of dollars. And then so as this bidding went on, the FCC would look to see who's bidding for that particular census block, and the one that's asking the least amount of money from the federal government is the company that won the census block. So on the map that's in front of you, and I gave each of you a packet of information. In that packet is a map. The map differs a little bit from the one that's shown here, because this one that's on your screen is put together by a third party. The information should be exactly the same, but the one I provided you is the official FCC map. This one identifies who the bidders were and so on, where the FCC map just identifies what level of bids were awarded. So these bids were awarded on December 7th of last year, but following that, that was the initial period in which they were awarded. Each of the providers then had to provide additional information about their qualifications, how they were going to do it, and so on. While that was all being done, there was a quiet period that was enforced, and that ended at the end of January, on January 29th. So it's really been a month since all this has been out there and that we're working on. Nationally, charter was a very big winner in the whole thing. We won we won $1.2 billion in federal funding in the country, but we have to match a certain amount of that. So we are going to be matching $3.8 billion in our own private funding. So it's over a $5 billion investment that is being made in any place that was an RDOF award. Specifically here in Haywood County, locations in the Tier 1, there were 5,479 identified locations, and that's the FCC term of as a location. We believe that to be an address. Now, that could be a resident, it could be a business, it could be a municipal building, it could be any type of structure. So it's a location. And in doing that, from federal funding, we're going to be receiving over $7 million for Haywood County alone to do this. So, to do this, it's going to be a very large project for charter. If you look at what we're going to be doing, it's going to take us a long time. So what charter is doing, and I meant to start out with explaining the difference between charter and spectrum, because sometimes people understand that and sometimes they don't. But what charter is, Charter Communication is the parent company, and we sell products under the brand name of Spectrum. So we have Spectrum Internet Service, we have Spectrum Video, we have Spectrum wireless devices, mobile phones, and so on. So when you think about it, Charter is the parent company, Spectrum is the brand name. So when we are going about building this, what Charter is doing, we are setting up an entire new department in our company to deal with this across the country. So we're going to be building a regional office that's going to cover the Carolinas. It's going to be based in Charlotte, but it's going to be looking at all this. We're going to be hiring over 2,000 new people. We're in the process of hiring those folks right now. So it's going to be a process for us to get to the point of where are we going to be doing. Things that they're going to be looking at in their preliminary to move forward is we've got to do the departmental organization. Then when that gets done, we're going to be doing the walkout. And what I mean by walkout is all these places that we've won awards for, we've got to walk out and see what's available. Is there a pole line that's available? Do we got to go underground? What's it going to take to provide this service? Beyond that, then we have to do the design work to figure out if it's going, how we're going to build it off our existing services. And a question I get asked frequently is, well, what's your service going to look like? Is it going to be a wireless? Is it going to be point-to-point? Earlier this evening, or this morning, I was asked, are we going to be doing like the Elon Musk of a satellite service? Well, what our service is going to be, it's going to be a terrestrial, hardline, land-based service. So it's not going to be a point-to-point wireless like some folks provide, which is a good service for those that are unreachable right now. But what we'll be doing is a hardline service. Now, when you say hardline, what do you mean by that? Well, I don't know exactly what the service is going to be. What we've done is a fiber coax hybrid solution. And so where there's existing coax, so here in the town of Waynesville, where we had coax service, we run fiber to a node, and then it goes from the node to coax to serve the neighborhood, for lack of a better term. In areas that are new, where there's no existing coax, we've been doing more fiber to the home or fiber to the premises. And so exactly which route we're going to be doing, I can't answer that, because we've got to do the walkout, we've got to do the design, and then that will dictate what we're going to be doing. But those are the technologies we'll be using. So it's not going to be point-to-point, and it's not going to be satellite. One of the issues in doing the walkout that we have to look at, and it's one of a major factor in the speed in which we can roll this out, is what we call make ready. And make ready is how we attach to poles. We have to work with whoever the local pole owner, be it the power company. 99% of the time, it's the power company who owns the poles. And to attach our lines to those poles, we have to be within NESC, National Electric Safety Code. So that means we have to be a certain amount of inches or feet away from the power lines, and we have to be so many feet away from an existing phone company or whoever else might be on that pole. So to what we call make ready is we look at that pole, we file an application with the pole owner, then they have to go in and rearrange or possibly set a new pole or whatever is necessary to be able to create space so that we can make that attachment properly. So sometimes that can go quickly if it's what we call clean running, where there's very little make ready because there's plenty of room on the pole, very quickly. If there's a lot of make ready, that can slow things down quite a bit. So that's going to be part of what we're looking at in doing this walkout, is see what's the condition of the pole lines. We try to stay on the existing right-of-ways. Now, that could be along a highway and use NCDOT right-of-ways. It could be on public right-of-ways through municipalities or counties. But sometimes the pole lines don't always follow those right-of-ways. So we may have to go in and talk with some of whoever the property owner is of those locations and obtain additional right-of-way rights to be able to run those lines. Just because there's a pole line on there doesn't mean it's public. So if Duke or whoever the power company is there, maybe they have their own right-of-way, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we can use that same right-of-way. We would have to obtain our own if it's not public. So a question we get a lot is, what would our service look like once where are we going to be offering? And especially with broadband service, it's going to be our standard speed, which is 200 megabits per second. We will offer optional higher speeds up to 400 or even up to 940 megabits per second. We call it a gig, but it's just slightly under that. It's really actually 940. But that will be available anywhere that we have service. That's what's available here in Haywood, in Haywood County, where we already have service. Of course, then there'll be the television, there'll be the phone service, the VoIP service, and then we'll also be offering mobile phone service as well. So then the big question, and I know that the folks that spoke here earlier were from Springdale were asking about what the timing of this is. The RDOF is really a 6-year program, and it's based upon getting things done in incremental pieces. So the first milestone is we have to have 40% of, on a statewide basis, 40% done within 3 years. After that, then every year there's another milestone until the end of 6 years when we have to get it done ahead of time. Now, we're not going to be, we want to beat those timelines. So we will go out and do it as quickly as we can. But I don't want to, I want to set expectations is this isn't going to happen overnight. The game plan is for a 6-year construction by the FCC. If you look at one of the maps that I gave you there in that pamphlet, it showed what our level of services or our awards across the state of North Carolina is. So you can see there's a lot of other counties that are getting work as well. So we're going to try to go where it makes sense. You know, again, I was talking about the make ready and some of those type of things. So the areas where it's going to be quicker for us to move forward will probably be the easier running that we'll probably try to get done as soon as possible. The areas where we have to get more work done as far as make ready, as far as right-of-ways and some of those type of things, maybe not exactly right on the front edge of that. I am speculating, that's Mike Tank speculating just from the years of experience. Again, we are in the process of hiring a department. They're going to do the walkout. They're going to do design. And then at that point in time, they'll be able to put together the list and order of what we're going to be doing. That isn't probably going to happen. If it happens this year, I think we'll be doing good to get that much work done and that much of an order put together. Again, I don't want to set a false expectation that something's going to happen very quickly. This is a big project. So with that, I'm happy to entertain questions. Hopefully I kind of covered most of it, but please feel free to, I'm happy to answer questions.
Do you have any questions for Mike?
I made a note that you said Tier 1 was 5,479. Is that right? That's the number of
Addresses, yes.
addresses. What was the, did you have a total for Haywood County?
That is the total
That
for
is the
Haywood
total.
County.
I don't know if you talked to the gentleman from Springdale earlier, but one of his questions was, if I remember, are you overlap coverage over AT&T DSL and the other provider that's not adequate for that area? Are you going to overlap that?
Sitting here today, I cannot answer that because that's part of what our walkout, our design, our team is going to be looking at. The DSL that he's talking about with AT&T, if I'm correct, and this is just going from my own recollection, I do not believe that meets the 25/3 definition of the FCC, so that is not considered high-speed broadband. So we would probably build that area, yes. That would not prevent us from building that area. But again, that's just, again, speculating. That would be once we do the walkout. However, with that said, if that's in the green area that's an RDOF award winner, we are obligated to provide service in that area to these 5,479 homes.
And that is the green. It does look like it that covers Springdale. So,
Then we've told the FCC at the corporate level that we're going to build that area.
well, I mean, I'm sure you understand the financial situation that they're undergoing a private. They're entertaining doing enterprise.
Right.
But if
They're in the process of talking
if they're
with-
going to get an answer from you today saying charter's coming, naturally they'd probably want to stick that money in their hip pocket and wait on y'all. But you
If
don't
they're
know.
in that green area, the answer is charter's coming. Because we've made that commitment to the FCC.
So that means charter's coming, and it'll be there no later than 6 years, but no guarantee before that. And does the award that you were granted prohibit these folks that talked earlier from privatizing their cable? I mean, if they wanted to go ahead and enter into this agreement because they go, we don't really believe that charter's going to be here for 5 more years and we need this out here within the next year, can they go ahead and do that, or do you believe your award prohibits them from doing that?
I do not personally know of any reason, any legal reason that would prevent them.
Okay. So it's a matter of their choice whether they want to go ahead and proceed down that line, and if they do, then you wouldn't have to provide it to that area.
We may or we may not. That would probably go into the thought process afterwards. So if their deal with Carolina Mountain Cablevision comes through and they build that and it's a speed that meets the FCC definition, that may let us off the hook with the FCC so we wouldn't have to build it. Again, this is all speculative. I'm not making yes, no, otherwise on this. But I think that could be a consideration once that design, once the walkout, once we get the actual lay of the land. You know, maybe I ought to go back to the very beginning of saying, when this happened, this was held very close and very tight at the corporate level, because I was talking about the reverse auction, how it had to be very quiet so that there's no collusion between providers and so on. So it was held very closely in our company. I was not aware of what we were bidding on. There was just a handful of people at our corporate office who did this work. So I think they were going on assumptions based upon what the FCC was providing with regard to the census block information. And so did we actually do all the walkout and do all that ahead of time to make this awards or these bids across the entire country? No, we did not. We were making some assumptions. And so a lot of planning, a lot of high-level information gathered. So if those census blocks did not have the 25/3 FCC definition of high-speed data, they were eligible. So we would bid on those. That may change over the period of time of what these folks are talking about with Carolina Mountain Cablevision. That may change something. But if nothing would happen there, we would be committed to going there.
And I understand you're coming in with limited information today,
Yep.
but I appreciate you coming and at least providing that. Is there a way that you can keep apprised the status, if we had an appointee from our county, as to the progress that Charter's making in our area?
Well, I can tell you, you have a very good representative in Deborah Porto here on your broadband committee. She and I have been speaking for the last years before RDOF had happened, and when we were talking about different things. We talk about other forms of grants, potentially the North Carolina Great Grant Program. We participate in that, and so that is something that we also look at. I know she brought to us the Appalachian Regional Commission grant process we looked at. So we will have good communications with her. She has been very forthright in coming to help us provide any information about the pole owners, rights of way information, okay, and so on. So I think you already have a champion in that way.
Okay. So there is someone, and you have been providing them with who has access and right-of-ways and things like that. I mean, I do understand that could be problematic.
Yeah.
Okay.
But again, that's probably going to be coming out more as we find out more information.
Mr. Grant, I know that, or Mr. Tank, sorry, I know that you said there's a 6-year rollout period that you have, but if I understood you correctly, 40% of that has to be done in the first 3 years, is that right? And I guess it's safe to say you'll probably start in the easiest area to take care of that. So that 40% of those folks will have at least up to 200 megabyte.
Look, the answer is when we build out, yes, they will have that 200 level. My understanding is that 40% is at a level, not on a county-by-county level. So potentially, Haywood County could get done ahead of time, where Swain County, where we don't already have an existing footprint, may not get done as quickly. But if we get 100% of Haywood done, that could count towards the 40% of the state. And vice versa could be hold true as well. You know, again, I'm trying to set realistic expectations.
Sure. Well, that's what we want.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, some of the biggest complaints I get is from people that maybe live up a cove or somewhere, and your cable is right down there. They can see it. And the neighbors got service, and they call y'all, and I mean, I'm thinking of one guy right now, and he said that your representative here in Haywood County said, yeah, we're running it up there, but it's going to, if you can put up $12,000 on your end, we'll run it up to your house. And he said, I can see it right down there. So it's kind of frustrating, and I hear that quite often. So do you think there might be some priority put extending current lines with this grant? Maybe sometimes just 1,000 feet on up at the end of the service, or do you not? Can you answer that question? I don't know.
We're talking two different things here, because the RDOF grant that is here is for census block areas with no service. So it doesn't mean we provide a part of the county or a part of that census block and not others. It means there's none in that. So in the scenario that I think you were talking about, I don't know that that would fall into one of these. So that RDOF money could not be used for that. Now, to kind of, I hear that concern. I deal a lot with that concern. And it goes back to what the cost is to do that. And sometimes I try to make it, do an analogy somewhat to a water line. You know, if you're building a water line, you got to have a certain amount of water pressure, and then you kind of, when you get near an end, you can't just go another section and another section, otherwise you wouldn't have proper water pressure to get to that home. Many times, we may have a line, but it could be the end of the line. And so what we've got to do is we've got to go build backwards to get higher speeds to be able to extend it there. So that could be part of that cost. And we normally have some type of a formula, and I don't exactly know what it is, but in a situation like that, and I'm going to make up some numbers more for an example here. So we would go to the customer request service, and we'll go out and do an analysis, and we say, okay, it's going to cost $5,000 to do that. We'll pay a portion of that, maybe 50%, maybe $3,000 of that, but we've got to say, that's where our business model kind of kicks in. We can do our share, but to do that next piece, we would not recover our funding, even though we understand that broadband is very important. And in this world that we live in, and through the COVID pandemic, has been even more shown. So that's where you live in the beautiful rural area, but sometimes that comes with a little bit of a price too. In my packet that I gave you, each of you have my business card. So if you have some questions or need to reach out to me, you have my contact information. It was a press release that we sent out. There's also a blog that is written that if you're interested in following more, you can sign up for that blog information. There's a map that shows what we're doing in North Carolina. So that was just some good background information on charter, what we're saying, and so if you have some more questions, happy to answer them. If not, feel free to reach out to me anytime I can be of help, but I will be staying in touch with Deborah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It helps us understand the process a little bit better too, I think. And like at Springdale, I think that y'all are, being proactive and going ahead and getting the broadband is probably the best. It's kind of like a bird in the hand, if you will.
Yep. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate you coming in, and Dr. Porto, thanks for everything. You can see how complicated this is. Some legislators have, been really patting themselves on the back about this. It's a complicated process. This is a drop in the bucket of where we need to go. We don't need to stop working on this. And this is, where our folks in Raleigh and our Washington need to keep working on this. This is just a start, and we have a long way to go. As Mike was mentioning, we have 7 million here. Jackson County got 11. And it's going to, and you hear, what he says that, by year 3, and they're going to go for the low-hanging fruit, and as Tommy mentioned, in the area. So it makes it complicated for here, and I'm glad Mike's working with us and being forthright about how complicated this is going to be. But I just want everybody to hear this is just a drop in the bucket of where we need to go. Okay, thank you.
Our next item is number 2 is the 2021 reevaluation update. We have our tax assessor Judy Hickman and Tanner valuation president Jimmy Tanner to speak to that.
Good morning.
Morning.
Currently, we're in the final phases of our final reviews. We're hoping to wrap that up fairly quickly, and then we'll be doing some edits prior to our notices going out. But basically, what I wanted to do is give an update as to where the values are going countywide. Currently, what we're seeing is a 25 to 30% increase, which is countywide. It's important to know that the increase is going to vary by property. Some areas may see a larger increase than others. If you'll remember at the December meeting, we gave some examples of some sales that ranged anywhere from 21% to 107% increase in sales price from where the market value was in 2017. Currently, we're seeing some neighborhoods that are going up anywhere between 40 to 50%. The market is a strong indication of where property values are moving, but there are also other factors that affect property values, such as location, age, replacement costs, building and property characteristics, and other factors that affect the property value is renovations. So if you're doing any kind of remodeling in your home, new construction, removal of buildings, and of course data corrections as the rates vary in each area. So what does this mean for your property? Most property owners are going to see an increase in value, and that's very important to know. We don't want anybody to be surprised. We have a very strong market. This has been going on for a while. It didn't happen overnight. We've watched values for the past 2 to 3 years, and we've been seeing some pretty significant increases. If you kind of want to know where your value is going to be, take a look around at what your neighbors' properties are selling for. It's a guess of where your value is going to be. The last reappraisal values were set as of January 1st, 2017, and since 2017, significant market changes. For 2020 alone, we had 1,800 plus valid sales that we looked at. So there's substantial evidence throughout the county that the values have increased. So our new notice value letters will be mailed sometime near the end of March to the beginning of April. And within those notices, there will be information on how to appeal your value if you do not agree. Due to COVID and the safety of our citizens and our employees, we will not be conducting in-person appointments. However, we still do have 2 options available for you for the appeal process. That will be through the electronic appeal, or you can mail your appeal form in that is included with your value notice. There are different levels of appeal. Your first, once you get your notice of value, there's going to be instructions in there along with an appeal form that you can fill out if you choose. And that is at the informal appeal level, which is, comes back to our office. Our appraisers take another look at it. Once you receive your notice of decision letters, there will be instructions with that can tell you how you can appeal further, which would be to the Board of Equalization and Review, which is a 5-member board. Once you receive that letter, there will be instructions to tell you how to appeal further to the North Carolina Property Tax Commission, which is at the state level. And then, of course, you can go on to the NC Court of Appeals and the North Carolina Supreme Court. Of the tentative calendar of events, we're completing the final value review and edits. Then we're going to prepare and mail the new notice values, and we will start processing appeals. Does anyone have any questions?
When will you be mailing the value? When will you be mailing them out?
The new value letters? Probably sometime towards the end of March.
Okay. And overall, what kind of number are you looking at overall countywide, do you think?
Overall, countywide, we're looking at 25 to 30% increase.
And so when we do revaluations, we do them every 8, we can go up to every 8 years, but we're doing this one every 4 years, but the state also said do a reval if we're more than 20% above, sales are above. And we have to do that this year based on state criteria.
We did receive a letter from the North Carolina Department of Revenue that we had fell below the ratio where we needed to be, so that even if we weren't going to do a reval in 2021, we would have had to.
Right, yeah, right. Okay. So I just want everybody to get that. I know we'll be filling questions, but, you know, I'm in the real estate business and I see it, Kirk is. We just see it, and I know Jennifer does policies for these homeowners and everything, and you're just seeing a lot of values in the sales. You know, I've talked to real estate agents, and they're not having as good a year because they don't have any inventory. You know, they just don't have any inventory, and that inventory is being snatched up, and that drives prices up. And and unfortunately, it's going to, you know, fortunately or unfortunately, you know, however you look at it, it can either be good or bad, but. I know our board's committed to, you know, that the tax rate will change, definitely be going down, but I just want everybody to understand that. Anybody else have any questions for Jimmy?
I don't have any questions, but Judy and Jimmy have briefed the commissioners at separate occasions on this, so I don't want everybody out there to think that this is all we've heard. We've heard at least an hour and a half's worth of other information in regards to the appraisal. So I mean, we're carefully watching the reappraisal process, and when you do get your values, I mean, each person has to review their value to determine whether that's proper and whether it's fair, and if not, Judy's laid out the appeal process. The other portion of the fact of values is people sometimes say, oh, my values are going up, my taxes are going up, but that's not at all necessarily the case. Taxes are based on the tax rate, not the value of your property. So, I mean, it goes hand in hand. And so just because the value goes up doesn't necessarily mean that your taxes are going to go up as well. The tax amount is basically done in coordination with our budget. So please keep that in mind as you receive the new values.
Anybody else have any questions? Y'all are awful quiet.
And honestly, we're very fortunate to have this situation. I mean, we could be in places in North Carolina that are not seeing an increase in value, probably a decrease in value. And so, you know, we really need to be thankful for the people that are moving in, for new construction, and for new values that have been established over and above the before. Because the more values that's established, of course, we have to provide services, but generally we can do that at a better rate. And so the more value we have, generally the tax value goes down for everybody. Hopefully, that's the case.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just make another comment. I was looking at Realtor.com. I look at it quite a bit, and I've noticed that homes that are selling like in a $500,000 and up range, in the 700,000 range, and even up to $1 million, you see those are under contract right now. And I can remember back in 2011 and 2012, 2010, when there wasn't hardly any homes even selling that price range for the whole year. So the market is definitely strong right now. Okay, our next item will be introduction of new county employees. And Brian, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Today, through February 15th, I have 10 new employees to announce. Sheriff's Office, we have Andrew Sutton, Tristan Harmon, and Philip Cotton. Tax Office, we have Robert Caldwell and Karen Davis. Development Services, Adam Kaufman. And Health and Human Services, Amy Arrington, Alicia Buhner, Donna Trantham, and Nicole Hawthorne. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, our next order of business is discussion or adjustment to the agenda. I don't have anything. Does anyone have any discussion or adjustment to the agenda? Okay, our next order of business is our consent agenda. We have 4 items in the consent agenda. Does any of the commissioners have any questions on any of the consent agenda items? Hearing no questions, I'll entertain a motion. We approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, anyone opposed? Okay. Okay, we'll move, our next order of business is a regular agenda, and we'll move to request a resolution appointing a special Board of Equalization Review. And Judy, you're back.
I'm back. I'm requesting a resolution for the 2021 Board of Equalization and Review.
Sorry, I'm just having trouble getting this up. Does anyone have any questions on that? I will say, the only question I had, Judy, so the compensation rate for the member, has that been unchanged for a number of years?
It has been.
I mean, should we look at that, or do y'all want to keep it the same? I did have a question about that.
How do we compare with what other counties are doing, do you know?
I think we're fairly close. I haven't looked recently at any of the other counties, but we are fairly close. But I do know it's not changed, I know, since 2017 at least.
Do you have a suggestion for us? Do you think it needs to be increased?
I think it probably should be increased a little bit.
Maybe you can get back with us or get with Bryant and make a recommendation.
Will that mess up the resolution?
Do you have a suggestion today? Have you thought about this?
I haven't thought about it, so if you give us a couple of weeks, we can do some research, see what other counties are paying, and bring back something in line with our neighbors.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can we resolution subject to the amounts?
Yeah,
You think?
I think so. Yeah. I don't see any reason why we can't.
I probably should have said
Yeah,
something.
I'll do some
Okay.
research.
I'll move to approve the resolution appointing of equalization and review, subject to a possible change in the rate of compensation as set forth therein.
Is there a second? Okay. Any other discussion? Okay. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Okay, thank you. I just know that hadn't been changed in a while, so.
Not only that, but I think they're going to have to work this year.
Yeah, they're going to earn whatever it is.
Yeah, it's going to be a hard year. We may not get anybody to apply next time. Okay. Do what? Hazard pay. Yeah. Okay, our next item of the regular agenda is to request approval of a budget amendment, the Capital Project Fund, Law Enforcement Center, the jail, $50,000 to allocate funds to a capital project account to cover costs associated with the subsurface exploration and soil analysis of the detention center expansion area, and approval for county manager to execute all documents pertaining to said project. We have our operations director, Chris Boyd, here this morning to talk about that. Hey, Chris.
Good morning, Chairman, Board. It's time to move forward with this project. I think we've the initial analysis. We've debated where we're going with this. The first step to moving forward is creating the Capital Project Fund, and then the next step would be to determine what type of soils and subsurface issues we have in designing and making the foundations. We know from historic data some subsurface issues there. We have some indication from the recent emergency medical services facility, and then some indication from some folks that were here when the original jail was constructed. So we have some ideas, but we need to know exactly how to design this foundation, and we need to make sure that we know what we have and that we get this right from step one.
Thank you, Chris. Yeah, foundation is important. Does anybody have any questions on that?
Was there any, you said you had some historical data. Was that from the previous jail building or the building you just referenced? What kind of historical data were you referring to?
We do have some reports from the EMS building, which was just 3 or 4 years ago. I don't have reports from the initial jail construction as far as geotech. That's why we're going down this path. What I do have is information from the original grading contractor and the original architect that shared with us some of the difficulties that they had in designing the footing. You know, we're talking about a very substantial building, so we want to make this right. We know with the EMS building that we've had some difficulties with the soils. We have some issues with the structure that we're already experiencing because of the moving soils. We want to make sure we don't experience that again.
I guess with the weather pattern we've had for the last 3 years, you might want to build it on pontoons or something like that. I mean.
So there is a likelihood. We know that with a high water table in this area and a lot of stormwater drainage coming to this area, it's in a floodplain that we'll have to elevate. So the likelihood of using a spread footing with piles, concrete piles driven into the ground to support is what we expect, but the subsurface exploration will tell us the dimensions of said piles and the distribution of those piles to make sure we support this facility correctly.
This 50,000, I mean, it's just an arbitrary number. I mean, it's not round 50,000. Is this something that we've put to the competitive bid process for 3 geotechnical groups?
We have some estimates for 2 different types of subsurface exploration. One is some sonic drilling to determine the depth of the cobble and what we would need to do in that design. The other is some soil analysis. So with the 2 of those, we know that we're under the 50,000. We just want to make sure that we added just a little extra, to be honest with you, to know that we didn't have to come back again if something runs over a few $1,000s.
But do we have a competitive process to do this? I mean, you have numbers, firm numbers?
I do have some firm numbers from a geotech. We already did just a little bit of exploration from an environmental company with some drilling, and we were unable to drill through any of the rock. So we do know and have some data that sends us in this direction with this particular company.
To a geotech firm. I was doing some work for him on another project, and it's kind of fascinating. I was just asking him some questions. It's kind of fascinating how they can mitigate, but you got to know to mitigate it if you know, and how to mitigate it to make sure you have a good, proper foundation. So I think this is very wise.
There's a lot of new technology that wasn't around. This facility was built originally 15 years ago. Mm-hmm. Brian and I actually met with some folks from BLE on Friday to discuss some of those new technologies. It's very impressive what's available now. It hasn't been as little as a decade ago. They had to import some soils for that. So we did have the information on that soil data from a geotech. So yes, there was some imported and elevated the site. I think there's, my expectation is no doubt we will have to import soils. If not because of the type of soil we have, at least for the elevation to get the slab of the building up to be above the base flood elevation.
Any other questions?
I didn't really have any other questions, but, you know, this has been an issue that's been discussed quite a bit, and I don't have too many issues that are discussed a whole lot, but I have had some calls and some folks in regards to the issue about building the jail, and I would just like to make a couple of comments about it. I mean, anytime you have a capital project that's going to cost a substantial sum of money, you're going to have questions about whether the county should be doing something like that, and then obviously when you move to the next step that it's a jail, that's not benefiting a whole lot of folks. It doesn't appear to be benefiting a whole lot of folks unless you're one of those people that wants to be protected from someone that needs to be in jail. I think there's this idea out there that we're building a jail so we can jail more people. Jennifer even spoke to me about that this morning, comments in regards to those lines, and that's certainly not the case. I can guarantee you by being in the courts for 26 years that I have never been in a court where I thought any judge was making a ruling so they could go out of their way to jail somebody. I mean, matter of fact, I've seen them do everything they can not to jail somebody or put somebody in jail for any length of time. Some of the reasons for this and because of having to expand the jail are kind of out of our control. There are certain regulations that have come into place over the last 15 years which require us to segregate inmates in a certain way. And so if you don't have a jail that allows for a certain population, you can't comply with that segregation. If you can't comply with that kind of segregation, you have to send your inmates other places. When you send your inmates other places, you have to pay for them to go to other places. And that cost for them to go to other places is more than if we have capacity here. That also, some of those state regulations also prevented us from continuing to operate the satellite jail. If anyone knows, the satellite jail was a complex right next to the new jail. It has been there for quite some time. It was there when we had the jail here at the courthouse. But it was basically a bunk-style place to house prisoners. And it was not extremely, it wasn't the detention-wise, it wasn't a strong detention holding center, but it allowed for people to go do work release and things like that as well. The state has said we can no longer have, and so I think that was about 40, was there about 40 beds in there, I believe?
You're right.
And so that cut out those lives. We've got a change in population in Haywood County. Our Haywood population has increased some, and with that, you're going to have a little more crime, unfortunately. Some folks have been concerned about the fact that we're spending money on this jail as opposed to spending money for substance abuse and mental health. And I have talked to some of the people in the community in mental health and substance abuse. And the fact of the matter is, and I think we should spend some money on things like that because the state has pulled back on their mental health. The problem with the county spending more money on things like that I see is that always work. I would say it probably works 20% of the time, that you're going to have someone with substance abuse issues or mental health issues and you provide assistance to them. Plus they also have to cooperate. So say you take that money and you spend it on those things and for those people, you're going to help about 20% of the people, but then 80% of the money that you've spent, you've just basically spent on nothing. It's gone out the door. You might have tried to help, but those people have to want to help themselves. And there are things you have to provide so they can help themselves, but they still have to want to help themselves at the end. At least with the jail, we'll have something we can see and touch, and we've spent the money and on a capital improvement, and it's not just been lost. I don't want to see people go to jail. I hope we don't. I hope it's empty and we get to fill it up with people from other counties and we get to collect the money from other counties. But I see that I just don't see another direction that we can go in but for the one that we're headed down. And that's kind of a follow-up of constituent concerns too, I guess.
Okay. Great comments, Kurt.
I'll just note that the needs assessment that Mosley conducted for us, this expansion is based on projections is going to meet our needs for 25 years. So it's not that it's housing more people right away. This is something that's going to last for over 2 decades or projected to. So I think it's not just here and it's full. It's going to be a way that we can open pods and staff in pods. So it's going to meet our need for quite a while.
You know, I guess while we're having kind of I know this doesn't pertain to the geotechnical thing, but since we're kind of addressing some constituent concerns, I think I can piggyback on what's already been said. You know, I said a few comments at the last meeting. It kind of backed up what Kirk said, but you know, in talking with the sheriff, you know, he said he wished he had started earlier, right when he got elected, pushing for more capacity. And we are, I had Bryant get us some data. We had a 10,000 population per capita. We have 17.37 beds here. And out of the 14 western counties, we're 3 from the bottom at 17.37 beds per capita. It's widely been discussed as possibly maybe it was underbuilt a few years ago. Possibly could have maybe kind of and it's caught back up to us now. That's been discussed. But we are 3rd out of 14 western counties per capita at beds, 17.37. Swain County has 76 beds per 10,000 residents. And as Kirk said, as our population goes up, we're going to have more people. You know, naturally the numbers catch you. You'll have to have more people, and we are right at capacity. So it's not something I take lightly. I don't think the other commissioners here take lightly. We have done a lot of research on it. I've had Bryant do a lot of research on it. And, you know, talking about people, I think our faith-based community has done an excellent job. I know our sheriff's been involved with that, trying to rehabilitate people and get people on the right track. And I commend them for that, like Pathways, other church groups that have tried to help people that are maybe frequent customers. And so it's something that, again, I don't think any of us take lightly, but I will reference an article from the local paper, the Mountaineer, back in October. You know, I won't mention any names, but the title of the article was written by Kyle Perotti. It says, "Man charged with rape hours after leaving jail." This happened right here in town. And the article goes on to say that he was arrested twice earlier in the same day and released. This is the same day. Well, later that night, right down here, a passerby heard a woman screaming, and it's in the article. And they called 911, and the new chief here in Waynesville is quoted in the article. This guy that had already been arrested twice in the same day and released was raping a woman. And quote from the article, Chief Adams, he said, "Not everybody deserves to go into jail and stay in jail. But these repeat offenders a lot of times can end up with a more serious crime if they're released." He added, "It decreases the incentive to follow the law." Notice that. It decreases the incentive to follow the law, this catch and release thing. It waters it down. People don't respect the law. This guy had been arrested twice in the same day and then was forcibly raping a woman down here later that night. Chief Adams also said that if they're in jail for an extended period, it can also give them time to clean up and get help. That's a direct quote from. So jail is not always a bad thing. The faith-based community was here, and it gives them opportunity to go and do jail ministry. It gives them opportunity to dry out and possibly get off substance abuse and get in their right mind and possibly get help. So if you want to look at it from that aspect, there's just a lot of things to put on the scales here. And so sometimes jail is a good thing. I actually have an extended family member. If he were here today, he married a distant cousin of mine, and he's a success story. He was in jail multiple times early on in life, and jail helped him. He's on the right track now. He got a wonderful, beautiful family. He's been clean for years. He's employed, and he would stand here today and tell you, you need to build a jail. He'd tell you that, because it helped me. It changed my life. It gave me an opportunity to get clean and get in touch with some people that could help me. So I agree with Commissioner Kirkpatrick, you know, in addressing some of the community concerns. There's a whole lot of things to put on the scales, and I think we're doing that, and we'll continue to do that.
Just to add to what the man said as well, I want people to understand that it's not that we have a choice to do one or the other. We're actually going to try to do both. You know, we can build a jail and still supply the mental health that's needed, and I want folks to understand that that's what our intentions are. I know that we have a special place in this new drawing that we have where we can supply that mental health and help that some of our folks need, because some of these people need to be in jail. Sometimes that grabs your attention. You know, when I was younger, worst thing in the world is to get grounded. You know, when you're grounded and having to sit there, you know, in your bedroom and think about things, sometimes that changes your mind. So I just want people to understand that we are still going to try to do both things and not just build a jail and run with it.
Thinking about what they had to say, and I'd like to challenge them to, I guess, bring some solutions to the table. It's, you know, as far back, and Tommy touched on this last week, you know, there were some of Jesus's disciples were actually in prison, and I believe that there is a need for justice. I believe that law and order something that we need. I think that our citizens want in this community, and the state tells us how we have to do that, and we have to operate under certain guidelines. So I think there's going to need to be a blend between a jail. I think there's definitely a need for that, and I think we also have to look at the mental health of our community, but we need solid solutions. We've established that there is a need. We need solid solutions and ideas that work. They need to be monitored, and when they don't work, we need to readjust and find something that does. So in agreement that the jail is definitely a need, and it's, I feel like this catch and release allows people that are dealing with whatever their issues are to maybe reoffend before their even sometimes their first court appearance. So I appreciate are moving. I think everybody that sits on this panel, I think we're all commissioners. We want our community to be better, and I think that's true of the faith-based folks as well as our law enforcement people too. So I think it's a situation where we've got to have both.
Okay, and I'll just say that when our jail, just to give you all a little bit of history, when we built the law enforcement center in 2004 and 2005, it added 90 beds, jail beds. The satellite jail is what I called it then. I think they call it the jail annex now. Had 40, and basically state law have just about rendered the satellite jail ineffective with some of the laws that that the sheriff has to follow. So basically, we had 130 beds, and then we had to take away 40 beds that we had, and so we didn't underbuild. We thought we were adequate, and I think the average jail population is around 117 per year. So, you know, we had 130, and all of a sudden we have 90 because the 40 that we thought we had, we don't have anymore. So, and even our jail that has 90 beds in it has issues, I think, that needs to be corrected, that have to do with state laws and everything that the sheriff has to follow. So, and pathways, just, you know, pathways, we did pathways for, the main issue with pathways is to help homeless people. The jail just happened to be there, and we were able to help a few people in jail, and that was a little bit of an offshoot. But really, pathways helps homeless folks who are homeless because of certain economic situations, not because they've been in jail. So Pathways is there to help people that are homeless, and they have a great success rate. They've helped literally hundreds of people get back on their feet and get back out into the public, or get back out into housing, if you will, and it just kind of gives them a little bit of a reprieve to where they can get on their feet again. So they help hundreds of people there, and they also have helped some in the jail, and the sheriff has been able to use the faith-based community to do that. And I will say that Bryant and I are looking at using the satellite jail possibly, or some space at the jail to help with some of the programs that have been talked about. And we're going to try to have a meeting in the future to address some of that and to talk. I do understand that there needs to be some mental health help. We're not supposed to be in the mental health business. That was the state and federal government's job, and they've basically abdicated that. And, you know, there might be some things we can do that we'll look at that we want to try to do. So we're not, it's not an either or, if you will. It's probably both, a little bit of both, or probably a whole lot of both that we're going to have to do to take care of this situation. So, you know, so those that would like to see more substance abuse help and programs, there'll be probably some of that, as well as some that we have to do. The jail is, as Kirk said, to have people come and take them out of the county, because the deputy that takes them is out of pocket that day, and it just creates more cost. But sorry, Chris, that we got off on all that. So I'll entertain a motion. We approve item 2 of the regular agenda.
So moved. Second.
Okay, all in favor? Any other discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye. 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 Okay. And it was good to have that discussion. I don't want to downplay that at all. I think that was just something that we were able to do. So appreciate your patience there, Chris. Okay, our next item under the regular agenda is to request approval of a budget amendment for human resources for $38,000 to appropriate funds to cover costs of the Evergreen study originally approved by the Board of Commissioners in fiscal year 2020, but put on hold due to COVID-19. So, Brian, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It seems like forever ago that you put funds in place to do this study.
Yeah.
We put it on hold, and then at the end of the fiscal year, those funds reverted back to fund balance. And for those funds back, we actually have Evergreen already underway with the contract. I know that's one of your priorities for the upcoming budget, so we need to put the money in place so we can pay them.
Does anybody have any questions on that? Okay, I'll entertain a motion. We approve item 3 of the regular agenda.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, you want to oppose? That's unanimous. Okay, our next order of business is appointments, and we'll have our county manager talk about those. The first is to request approval of a reappointment of Dr. Elizabeth Ferguson as the dentist member and the appointment of Dr. Travis Barham as a public member to the Health and Human Services Agency Board. It sounds like really good qualified folks.
It does. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Like you said, it's a reappointment for Dr. Ferguson and a new appointment for Dr. Barham. Dr. Ferguson is the owner of Smoky Mountain Dentistry. She's lived in Haywood County for 15 years. She's on the Haywood Community College Foundation Board as well. As far as Dr. Barham, he's lived in Haywood County for 10 years. He has 23 years of experience as a dentist with the Air Force, 10 years working with underprivileged children, and 12 years in private practice. That's all I have, sir.
Okay, and I'll entertain a motion. We approve those in item 1 of appointments.
I move we approve them.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Okay. Hey, I was wondering, the health and the Miss Sarah Henderson, when does she come on board? Do we know? I think I missed that. You may have. When does she start work for the county?
March 15th.
Okay, all right. We may have said that, but I just thought of that when I was reading this. Okay, and we're glad to have her. She's very qualified. I was very impressed with her qualifications, and especially with her help on COVID patients in New York. Okay, next is under appointments is number 2 is to request approval of an appointment of Leslie Smathers and Martha Mills, and the reappointment of Josh Sarles, Karen Hammett, Don Smart, Bill Holbrook, and Van Agricultural Advisory Board. Right.
Okay. Ms. Mills, for 33 years with the USDA Farm Service. She knows the Farm Bureau, all of the intricacies of how Haywood County and this program works. She's also been an advisor to this board previously. Leslie Smathers serves as the Haywood County Cattlemen's Board of Directors, or on the Board of Directors. She's also on the Western North Carolina Beef Commission, and she retired from Haywood Soil and Water.
It's a he.
See, I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay.
And has been a resident of the county for 73 years.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, Leslie worked with Soil and Water for a number of years. Okay, I'll entertain a motion. We approve item 2 of appointments.
So moved. Second.
Okay, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Okay, it's unanimous. Okay, and then number 3 of appointments is to request approval of an appointment of Margaret Ruff and Jonathan Sears and the reappointment of Jimmy Flynn, Evelyn Cooper, and Ted Cart to the Board of Equalization and Review, and the reappointment of Leon M. Killian III to serve as alternate. I'll entertain that. Oh, go ahead, Brian.
The Board of Commissioners actually interviewed Mrs. Ruff and Sears. I don't have the date in front of me, but you folks did the interview.
Before the last meeting.
Before the last meeting. And also, after this appointment, we need to appoint the chair and vice chair.
Okay.
If you can do that. If you need any more comments about the 2 appointments, I'll find them for you.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion that we approve these appointments first in item 3. So of the 5 folks or the 6 folks that are listed there.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Is this the appointments that we have here that give the general board and the alternate? Is that something that's been requested by those particular people, or is that part of this motion, or is there no discussion about that?
They applied.
I mean, did they apply? I mean, I know we had 7 people apply. Did Chip apply because he wanted to be the alternate? Did he say he wanted to be the alternate, or we him the alternate? That's what I'm asking. I mean, there's 7 people that applied. We're appointing 6, and we're appointing them in this fashion, but we haven't really had a discussion about it, I guess. So that's
Right.
why I want to make sure that that's okay. I mean, he has served before, and if he wants to serve on it, then is it new people that have applied for it? Maybe they should be the alternates as opposed to someone who has actually been appointed before and is being reappointed.
On the application, it doesn't say if he wanted to serve as a full appointment or an alternate. It doesn't say.
Right.
I guess I had them listed that way, just I'd kind of talk with some folks.
See the alternate last time?
Yeah.
Yes.
We're just reappointing the...
We were appointing him as alternate, but then we had 2 new people that had never been on the board before.
I see your
that
point.
That are on the board.
I see your point.
And, if no one's made a request, I mean, to me, if you've served on the board before, I would think that you should be able to be appointed to the regular board, and then someone could be the one that's the alternate. I think Ms. Ruff and Ms. Sears, I mean, it wouldn't really matter to me. I know, I'm Mr. Sears. But I mean, I'm one person, I'm just going to make that statement because I think it needs to be discussed. If you guys want to do it that way, then that's fine, and we'll move forward.
You put us in a quandary. Do you think you should have a discussion with Mr. Killian and see what his thoughts are and the rest of the board, or do you think they ought to let them decide? Or?
Well, I don't know. I mean, if Bryant wanted to do that, you want to do that to see if there's anyone that, given the circumstances, any one of those 7 probably want to be the alternate given the year that we're doing this in, but they want to jump into it, then more, go for it. But
there's actually 6. We got 5.
Right.
I haven't had a conversation with Chip. Timing may be an issue where he's willing to serve as an alternate as needed, but not with the full board. We can certainly follow up with them and see.
Well, I mean, at the drop of a hat, he can be a full board member. Something came up with this COVID going on, I mean.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, if he's got time restrictions, I mean, it may be a problem for him to be an alternate, because you should be ready to step in and full-time if you need to.
It's true. I mean, that's why I assumed that everyone who applied for the board was applying for the board to be on it full-time, as opposed to, I don't think anybody applied to be alternate.
I can't answer that question. You incumbents are going to
Well,
bail me out.
this was just my recommendation. This is the way I asked the clerk to put it on here. So.
Yeah, and I'm, you know, I apologize for bringing it up late.
I'll entertain a motion with them as listed. Oh, no, I mean, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay. Okay, then we need to have a chair and a vice chair. So Jimmy Flynn had served as chair, and Evelyn Cooper had served as vice chair on the last ENR board.
Did I read in the comments that Ted Carr had served as chair as well at some point?
I don't know.
I mean, he's here. Ted, have you served
as
have you served as a chair on that board before? So he hasn't.
I think it was just his first term the last time, if I remember correctly.
Well, those are difficult positions as far as being the chair and vice chair, and they kind of control the meeting and the tenor of the meeting, and sometimes the tenor of those meetings can get a little riled up. So I think Jimmy probably could take care of that. I mean, I wouldn't put it past any one of them that can, but Jimmy's had the experience, and Evelyn's been on there before too. So I would move to approve those two as chairman and vice chairman.
Jimmy and Evelyn have both been chair at some point, is that correct?
I second that motion. You making that in a motion?
Yes, sir.
I second it. If they're agreeable to it, I certainly am.
And I will say our staff is really appreciates Jimmy serving. You know, they like him as the chair also. They think he's really good with the property owners.
Both of them served on that board for a long time.
Yes, yeah. They probably served longer on the board than anyone on that we have this morning.
This year may do him in.
Okay, so all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, anyone opposed? Okay. Okay, so is that good, Tracy? And Candy? Candy's there too. Candy, this ended up being pretty long. I just, you know. Okay, so our next order of business is closed session, and we have economic development 143-318.11A4. I'll entertain a motion. We go into closed session.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Okay, and we'll be in closed session when we enter the chambers in the back.
what they're going to do with all that dirt.
Where's that at?
Out there behind the Presbyterian church.
What are they doing?
Okay. Okay, we've returned from closed session. Does anyone have any other business before the board today? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion. We adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Okay, everybody be safe out there. This meeting's adjourned.